Beautiful.
Hi, welcome to Help with Hannah Jones. I'm Hannah Jones, and I'm answering your questions, Dear Abby style. This podcast is brought to you by Little India. This is a beloved, local, family-owned restaurant with 4 locations throughout the Denver area and a coffee shop. I love stopping by the coffee shop for a quick snack or going to one of the dining locations for everything from birthday dinners to date nights. If you live in Colorado, you should make this place a regular stop. And if you're visiting our great city, be sure you don't miss Little India. Visit littleindiadenver.com to find a location near you. And thank you to Dude IDK Studios in Denver, where we are recording. If you're in Denver and you listen to this podcast, it's great, right? I don't do any of that technical stuff. If you go back and listen to our first 2 episodes, there was no video and they sound like shit. So if you want to start a podcast, consider hitting up Dude IDK. Yeah, we didn't have a sponsor last time you were here.
That was cool.
That
was really cool.
It's so cool.
I read it and I was like, that's bad bitch behavior.
And I will be honest, they're pretty late on their invoice. So we'll see whether this keeps going. I was like, wait, should I just keep reading the ads? And it's like, well, yeah, I love Little India. So I'll just keep reading the ads. If they never pay me again, that's fine. Honestly, I kind of like the clout of the feeling of having a sponsor.
It's pretty cool to say it like you have a sponsor.
Yeah. They're like very busy restaurant people. I don't expect them to answer their email all the time. Yeah, I have a guest in the studio today to help me give advice. You might recognize him because he's been on this podcast before, and you guys loved him so much that I asked him to come back. It's Calvin Reed.
Whoa! Excited to be back. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. You revealed a second ago that you have a little update for us. If you'll recall last time, give us a quick recap in case they haven't listened to the former episode.
Yes, quick recap. So if you did not listen to the former episode, I was wanting to text a boy that I had not texted. It was a little bit of the one that got away vibes where I was like, I ended things, but then I was like, maybe I want to change it up. I don't know. Like, let's see what happens. And so I did.
And remind us why you ended things.
Because he gave me strep.
Except he didn't give you fucking strep, dude.
But actually, people texted me afterwards and like who watched the episode and they're like, Calvin, you can get strep that way. So
Wait, but okay, hold on. But what we determined was that you can also get it a bunch of other ways.
So he really could have given it. It really could have been anybody else, but I'm sticking with it being him.
Okay, fair.
Just so I feel better about myself.
I just love the fact that people were listening to the episode disagreeing with me and only going to you.
Yeah.
No one said a word to me.
They were like, yeah, Calvin, you can get strep from anything. And they were like, you totally could have gotten it from him.
Sure, you can get strep from anything. Yes, you could have gotten it from him. But I guess what I just think it's a pretty crazy to...
It's a draw. It's a long stretch to go to him.
Yes, exactly.
But my mind did. I'm gonna let it sit in there.
That's like if I got COVID tomorrow during a raging COVID peak, and I was immediately just like, oh, I probably got it from insert last person who coughed around me. It's like that makes no sense.
Well, we didn't cough. We made out.
Yes, absolutely.
So I feel like that's just like a lot more contact.
Boy, now I'm not remembering the details. There was a reason why I stood behind this.
No, your logic was there. And when because I listen to the podcast because I like listening to my own voice now. Because I used to not like it, but now I'm like, I love it. Because I'm like...
that's growth, actually.
It is growth. I'm delusional. I'm like, I'm a star. I might as well just listen to myself talk. So I do, but I listen to it, and your logic is totally sound. Like I get it, but I'm just gonna stick with that. But I did text him, and he responded, and I asked him to coffee, and he lives in Chicago. He moved over the course of
probably
year.
Because you were spreading around that he's a dirty, sick little boy, and he was like,
strep.
Jesus Christ, my reputation's ruined. Yeah. I have to move.
No, that makes sense. He said he wanted a fresh start. He was like, yeah, I think it might be a little too long of a drive for coffee. I was like, that's kind of a cute answer.
That is such a cute answer.
He's really nice. He'll make some boy really happy. It's whatever. If I go to Chicago for comedy, he loves stand-up. So I was like, if I end up going for comedy, I'll take you to coffee then. And he said yes.
Now you have 312 Dick. 312 Chicago, right? I think that's their area code.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. I was like, what's that? What's 312?
Wait, I'm not positive, but I'm like almost positive. Yeah. Because I get spammed from there because I had to promote a Chicago comedy show.
Oh, yeah.
So now I get spammed by a bunch of different places that I tried to promote it, which is like fair because it's like I spammed them first. So they get to spam me for all eternity. But okay. He moved to
Chicago, but we talked. He said he watches stand up there, and he actually saw one of my shows. He saw my very first roast.
Wow.
Which is like he still liked me then. He held my hand the entire
a specific
time.
energy.
Yeah, I know, but he's like grounding, which is what I like. I like someone who's a little bit more calm than I am, since I'm like insane.
Calm is one thing, but I can't imagine being in a situation with someone and them coming to a roast show, because it's like, first of all, I don't know exactly how this is going to go.
Yes.
Second of all, you're telling jokes you've never told before. And then there's the added element of like getting made fun of for primarily physical defects.
Yeah.
Insane.
So it was back then when I was just like, oh, it's a show. Like, I didn't want to take him to a mic. I've taken a boy to a mic before too.
Well, yeah. So you just started, so you have less options.
Yeah. So I was very, very new. Nowadays, I would feel I've gotten a lot better in my comedy since then. So if he liked me then, I'm even better now. So that'd be great.
True.
So yeah, nowadays I'm much smarter about like shows and that kind of thing. And now I think I've actually had friends come to roast, and it's been a really good time. But I always get nervous because I'm like, I hope my jokes land. Like, at bare minimum, I hope I'm funny. Y'all came to see me, not them.
Yeah.
Laugh at me. But they've been okay so far when friends have come. That roast was okay. Obviously, he was fine with it.
None of my friends are down with roast, because like roasting has like a separate set of rules, obviously. Like,
That's
jokes
true.
are on the table that would not normally be on the table.
Yeah.
Otherwise, which is not to say like slurs are on the table, but like certain stereotypes that you normally wouldn't play with. And so it's like, I just like can't imagine having my friends there.
My friends all roast each other so hardcore that I think maybe it's just like, I'm like, okay with it. Cool.
Yeah.
They know. They probably said something where, I mean, because I've told you this before, I love roasting people's character. I don't want to roast what someone looks like. I want to roast who you are and like your principles, and who I want you to get cut deep. And I think it's funnier that way.
100%.
And all my friends are like that too. So that's how we roast each other. Is we're like, oh, you're a horrible person.
I'll be honest, my friends outside of comedy, the way that we interact, I mean, I'm such a sensitive person, and comedy is like all the roasting I can take. I have that classic friend group where it's like, hey queens, I just like murdered someone, so it's been a really hard day and I'm gonna bail out on dinner. And we're like, okay, not only is it 100% fine for you to bail out on dinner, queen, everybody deserves rest and relaxation and recuperation, and you have a lot going on. Second of all, murdering someone is so stressful. And like, honestly, kudos to you for even like having the forethought to text us that you were not going to be there tonight. We super appreciate it. And please let us know if there's anything we can help with, i.e. burying the body, etc.
I love that. I love that. That's a good friend group when you're like, I'll commit, like, I'm so sorry I killed somebody. Okay. That's fine. That's A-okay. I am blindly loyal to my friends sometimes. Like, they'll be like, I was really mean to this girl was like, I was really mean to this ex. Like, she was just looking back on him. Like, I don't remember you being that mean. I remember him being really annoying, actually. And she was like, no, Calvin, it's just because that's what I told you. I was actually like really mean to him. And I was like, oh, so wait, really? Because I really just remember him being really clingy, him never knowing when to shut up. Like, I just remember you being I just really remember that. She was like, no, I was just god awful to him. And it's like, okay, whoopsie, sorry.
Straight up, the last argument me and my friend got in, I was talking about how like, this thing, this person tried to come back into my life, and I, responded to them, but I accidentally responded with a business email, and I believe that they, like, I realized months later, like, oh, I think that they thought that I just like didn't respond. So the ball is still in my court from their perspective, and I totally get that. Anyway, I was talking to them about how like I need to go back and like figure out what to say, because I don't want this to be how this like ends forever.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh my God, well, that's growth. And I was like, oh no, so it's literally not growth, because I literally haven't done anything on it. I'm literally stagnated for an entire year, just completely ignored. No, it was 2 years ago. I just completely ignored the situation for a full 2 years. So that's not growth, but I'm sort of intending to grow this year. And she's like, and intending to do something is growth. And I'm just like, and you know what? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good friend right there. That's a good friend. Because you know what? Sure, they're going to be honest. They'll be honest at some point, okay? But, like, sometimes you just need that. Just, like, I know you have my back, bitch.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great friend.
Yeah, okay, so the thing that I wanted to talk about. Okay, so I guess this I've just been seeing so much. Have you seen this trend online primarily? Of sort of like women talking about how like you should get a man who can like pay your bills and like I'm a
Hmm.
stay-at-home girlfriend and like feminism has not served us. Nobody wants to be working. Like
Yeah.
just get your bag and go. Or get your bag and stay in this situation.
Yes.
And I get so traumatized every time I see one of those because I was raised in a fundamentalist religious culture where women had no control over the financials of a marriage that was seen as just like understood that the
Hmm.
man makes the money and therefore the man makes the decisions about the money. And it really limited women's ability to get out of like abusive situations. And I saw that a lot growing up
Hmm.
in my friends' moms and stuff. And it's just so like I feel like the main thought that everybody's running with is like, oh my gosh, like I miss, and they're like romanticizing this old fashioned world where like I would have had a husband and sure he would have been boring, but he would have like taken care of me and I would have
Hmm.
gotten to be coddled and not have to go to work. And I just keep wanting to comment on these bitches' things and be like, no, like the women who would have gotten married immediately and been
Uh-huh.
taken care of are already married. You're not one of them. Like the bitches with the big gums, the bitches.
The
No, I'm
military,
saying
no, the
the
military. I know
girls who
exactly
got
what you're
married
talking about.
because they
Yeah.
have a pleasing disposition and they're good at it and they have the skill set and they have the look to like want to get locked down early. They got married. You are a hot girl, but you're
Hmm.
not hot. You wouldn't have been married. You would have been slutified. You would have had
Yeah.
no options back then because you're a little too outspoken and you're a little too slutty. And so it's not like 40 years ago you would have had this husband taking care of you. 40 years ago you would have had no fucking options and everyone would have been like, she's surprisingly hot for what a fucking spinster she is. You would have had no options for work.
Hmm.
But it would be the same life where you are still financially responsible for yourself 100%. There's a margin there, definitely. Like more women were getting married long ago than are now. So maybe you're one of those girls who's single now and wouldn't have been single back then.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of the people making that content have fillers, like visible fillers. And it's like, you're not one of those girls.
No, you're not one of those girls. I know exactly what you mean. It's like, yeah, those girls that would have gotten married really quickly, they either got married to exactly what you talked about, or they got married to that closeted gay kid who was needed to get married. Like I can picture a few
An
couples like that
ideal
right now.
situation for sure. But
Yeah.
there's only one gay kid in every like small community, one closeted gay kid that all the
Hmm.
women can vibe with, and but they're all looking at him as like, you are the man out of again, this is the 50s. You're the man who's the least likely to hit us out of all of the eligible bachelors because you're just giving off the vibes of like not hitting us. And so they would have been fighting over him.
Yeah,
He
that's
would have
true.
been the prime cut, you know?
Would I have been the prime cut in the 50s?
Yeah, quite possibly. I mean, you're an earth sign. You are
No,
like,
I'm a Gemini. I'm an air sign.
wait, really? Did we
Yeah.
have this same conversation last time you were on?
I
'Cause
don't
that's
think so. No, I'm a
embarrassing.
Gemini, Virgo.
You, word. So
Yeah.
you are put together though.
I
You have like a job and a normal life.
I do it. Yeah. Yeah. To a comic compared. Yeah. I'm put together. In general, I don't think I am, but yeah, comic compared. Yeah. Like if we think in the realm of comedy, yeah, I have
How
it.
old are you? 26?
I'm 24.
24?
Hmm.
Yeah, you're put together compared to most like 24-year-old
I
guys.
guess so. Yeah.
Do you feel like you're less put together than the average gay man even? Because I feel like you're more put together than the average gay man.
I mean maybe in some ways I am, but in some ways I feel very behind. Because
Hmm.
like I've like never been in a relationship. Like I've dated people, I've never been in a relationship, so I feel like behind romantically, if that makes sense. Like I don't, but that's also just like a very common gay guy experience. Like that's just like
Yeah.
dating. Just that's a very queer experience, I guess. Is just like dating's hard. Dating's hard in general when you're in your 20s, but when you're queer, is just like the added layer. So I think I feel behind there, but then in other ways, I do feel ahead. Like I know my passion in life is making people laugh. Some people
Yeah.
go their entire lives without finding their passion. So in that way, I'm like, yeah, I am kind of ahead there. So
Yeah.
like in some ways I do feel really stable, but in other ways I'm like, eh.
I guess I'm imagining in terms of like getting one's basic needs met,
Yeah, then I
which
am pretty
comes down a
stable, yeah.
lot to just like financially like knows what to do when one gets a flat tire, like you call AAA, like those kinds of basic life skills.
Yes.
And you just like give off vibes that you've got it covered.
Yes. In terms of the basic shit, yeah.
But I also feel like I have a secret theory that a lot of people just have not, because media is written primarily like love is a topic we like to explore for any age group. Media really portrays this idea that people are having relationships a lot more in adolescence than I think is actually true.
I agree with that statement. Yeah.
Because I didn't get into a relationship for the first time until I was like 24-ish or something.
Okay. Yeah, I had like the girls that I dated in middle school, but I don't count that. And then I didn't
even have that. I didn't date any girls in middle school.
I dated 2, maybe. I don't know. They didn't last very long. We hugged maybe once the whole time.
Serial monogamist.
and I remember being like, okay, I won't date again until high school. And then all of high school came and went. Did not date anybody. All of college came and went. My junior year, I did like date people, I guess, but nothing ever lasted.
Well, that's the weird thing about college, is that because college towns are so small, you can like broaden your horizons 3 different times, and if you still haven't found anybody, it's like, okay, well, I'm stuck here until I move to like an actual city.
Yeah, the guy who I dated wasn't even from there. We met, it was through it was like the COVID season 1 romance. It was a whole thing. So we like FaceTimed and did that whole thing. I got Tinder Gold or like Tinder Platinum or something because it was half off. And I was like, whatever, I'm bored. I'm like, at home. Literally, I was like, it's 50%
Let me swipe
off.
in Copenhagen.
I did. So I swiped
off.
internationally. They all didn't like me once I said I was an American. So then I was like, fine, let me just go. Let me stay, main country. I did a few different cities. And I was like, let me see how many Mormons I can get in Salt Lake City. So I did Salt Lake City, matched with a guy. We started talking. We talked every day. He's an international student going to Provo. He flew out in the middle of the pandemic to like visit me. And then, so we were like a thing. We FaceTimed every day. And then he was also my first heartbreak. But
wait, so you only knew him on the internet until he flew out to you? That was your first time meeting in person? What was that like?
Oh, it was great for me. But like, I think it was okay for him. Because it was also COVID. It was June of 2020. It was like a weird time. So like.
Was it not hard to establish that physical chemistry?
No. Because we already talked about liking each other so much and all that kind of stuff. Like we were very much like attracted to we were calling each other babe by the time.
So you felt like the vibe on screen and the vibe off screen was like exactly what you expected and just translated easily.
We had a few minutes of like awkwardness when I first picked him up, but after that it was fine.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like can't imagine that.
Oh yeah.
Every time I went on an online date, I was always like, oh.
I mean, I don't know. I mean,
I'm not saying that someone was like uglier than their pictures. That's not at all what I'm implying. I'm saying that like their vibe was not what I was expecting, and it was just hard. It was just difficult
I've had that happen
to
before,
establish that online chemistry.
I mean, we FaceTimed a lot for like, it was COVID. I mean, it was like the first part of COVID when you had nothing else to do. So it was almost like, I wasn't nightly, but it was multiple times a week, and we would do it for a long time. I knew like his life story. Wow. Like we knew a lot about each other. It was crazy.
How did that end?
He broke things off 2 days after he got back. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. To his defense, like looking back, I was a little crazy. Like I was a little bit like, nah, because I was insecure.
Who wasn't? That's a reasonable response to the pandemic and to being 20.
Yeah. And it was like my first ever like, true thing and that kind of stuff. So there was like a lot of that going on. And then he, I think, was an asshole in his own right. So, I mean, he was also like.
He's also European.
And Mormon.
Oh God, that's
his head was the Mormon church in Hungary.
Double homicide.
Yeah, dude, it was insane. And oh my gosh, yes. And then at that same time, I was reading the Call Me by Your Name book. Which, to those of you in the viewership who don't know, the book is way fucking sadder than the movie. The book is traumatizing.
Really?
Oh my gosh, I cried for 30 minutes in my work office after reading that book.
Oh no.
Well, it happened within a few months of him, and then the whole.
What happens in the book?
So. The spoiler alert to the movie, they don't end up together. He like calls and is like, yeah, I got engaged. Well, in the book, they see each other 6 months after the initial summer. They kiss. Armie Hammer's character, Oliver's like, no, we can't do it anymore. They see each other 5 or 6 more times over the course of 50 years, or not 50 years, like 40 years, like 4 decades. Wow. They like all move back to America, and the main character, Elio, sees Oliver like multiple times, and every single time Oliver acts like nothing happened, but he's like, hey, this is my good friend, whatever. And Elio, you you hear his perspective the whole time, and he's like, I just like wonder if you ever think about me in the way I think about you. And they were like married, had kids at this point. They like never saw each other except at like occasional things. And like the last line was like, I wonder if he ever still thinks about when I called him by his name or something like that. broke my heart.
Well, what was so deeply beautiful and moving and universal about that movie is the weird like devastating impact of like a relationship being secret in a way that like you don't know if it existed or not.
That's how I felt with this guy, because I wasn't out to my parents at the time, and my brother knew at the time he existed, and my friends knew he existed because I talked about it and I sent them the profile. He was supposed to meet my friends when he was in town, but he like claimed he was sick, which caused a fight, which caused what I think was like our the start of the downfall. So he never met my friends. And then I was too nervous to tell. I wasn't out to my parents by the time he ended things, and that kind of stuff. And then I didn't tell my brother about it. So it was kind of like, I didn't know if it really even happened because no one met him. So it was like, did it even happen?
Yeah.
It's a whole thing.
Not my brightest moment, was with a dude who had a girlfriend in San Diego, and we like hung out all the time, and I was really in love with him, and he was not in love with me, but he said it once right before we were going to sleep, and and my brain took that and ran with it.
I would have too.
And we were on cocaine, so I was like, "This is real."
Oh yeah, I would have done the same.
Obviously, it was like at a time where like I didn't really, I wasn't really a competent enough adult to really be in love. It was more so that like I was learning a lot about myself and about being in the world, and so many of the stories and fears about myself were interacting with the themes of this relationship, which just like blows up its significance. And when I ended up leaving the city, because I was like, fuck this place.
Damn, okay.
When I was like leaving the city, I like took a couple of things. I mean, he had given me like a gift. He gave me a gift when I found out he had a girlfriend, because we had started hooking up before I knew he had a girlfriend. When I found out, I was pissed. And he like gave me this thing that he had bought 2 days earlier for himself. He gave me this backpack with like it was this cool like had, his favorite like street artist had like designed this backpack that was like cool, neighborhood, and he like gave it to me. He's like, "Does this make it better?" And I was like, "No, but I'm taking the backpack. This is a $190 Jansport, and it's fucking awesome."
Yeah, as you should. Yeah,
and that has been my travel backpack for the past 4 years.
Take what you can from the men.
More than that.
Yeah, take what you can from those men.
But like that backpack ended up being so significant, and there was a book that he had given me, and then he had taken one of my shoes and I had the other shoe, and it was like, for some reason, those things, I've never been like an object girl, but it was so important for me to have like evidence of that, because he was not on social media. I wasn't connected to any of the other people from my time there on social media. It was like there was no other like proof that he existed, and I think that's what like just like made those things so important.
Yeah, no, I feel similar to that, where I mean, did I like I this when it first happened, I was rough. Your first breakup is never good. I like kept the receipt from like the chips he bought, and I was like, this is it. This is it. This Brucey came, because he was also like, I'm going back to Hungary as soon as I graduate, which like I don't even know where he is.
Yeah.
Or what the fuck? He watched my Facebook story like 2 months ago. Totally random.
Oh, traumatizing.
I was like, bro,
absolutely
what the
not.
fuck? I've had so many worse men encounters since then, unfortunately, but that one just takes the cake as being the first, and also when I was the most isolated.
Yeah. Yeah, COVID, I was so out of my mind. I'm so glad that I didn't have any sort of like love affair. Like what happened during COVID in my brain was like bad enough.
That was the start. It was just a rough summer, rough times. I ended up coming out to my parents later that summer, but it was just a whole thing. Oh my gosh, ugh. Rough times.
Slay, you ready to get into some questions?
Let's get into some questions, yes.
Fantastic. Before we get into questions, I have announcements. Number 1, new shows coming up. Denver, new material show on February 7th. Please come to that. Tickets are selling a little slower this month than in the past, but they usually sell out. I'd like to sell out again. I'm crossing my fingers, but go ahead and get your tickets early. 1 month, the first month we did the 2 shows, the early show was significantly better. And then the second month, the late show was significantly better. So I'm excited to see. You guys can duke it out to see which show is going to be better. But all that is to say, I would not say both shows are good every time. And the late show isn't that late. People always get tickets to the early show first, but I don't think that they realize that the late show is only like 9 to 10:15. So don't freak out that it's like a late show or anything. Number 2, this podcast is sponsored by the Patreon. Patrons. Oh, and also January, I'll be in Los Angeles. I'm doing a bunch of short spots. They're up on my website, hannahjonescool.com/tickets. You can come by. Don't expect me to be headlining, but I would still love to like say hi to you. You can see me do 10 minutes, and all the other comics on the show will be amazing. And then in February, I'll be in Santa Fe. Sign up for the text list if you want that ticket link. I'll have it soon. And then I'll be in Seattle and Portland March and April. And those ticket links will be up soon. So get on the text list if you're waiting for any of those. This podcast is sponsored by the Patreon, patreon.com/hannahjonescool. Patrons have first priority to get their questions answered and a bonus episode every month. It's only $3. It's a good time. And if you want to ask a question to get answered in a future episode, you can find the link to that form in the podcast description or in my link tree on any of my social media platforms. Alrighty.
Love it.
Question number 1. What are your thoughts on dating bisexual men? A friend of mine has recently been trying to date women after nearly 2 decades of dating strictly men and has found women to be somewhat turned off by his history. I'm curious to hear your personal thoughts on the matter. Another question, what are your personal feelings on dating men who have dabbled in the sex industry, either long, short, or something in between? Signed, male out of SATX.
What's SATX?
I have no idea.
Oh, damn it.
San Antonio, Texas. That actually...
I read it as like Sex and the X. Like, because I was like, Sex and the City. Like, what are you talking about?
That actually is so helpful. Thank you, Nick, for saying that. Because when I first thought this, I'm like, he must be old or something. Like, yeah, homophobia is so real. I am surprised that a person who is in a place where they've been able to pursue, like, as a bisexual man, you've been dating mostly men. I'm assuming that you're in at least a queer-friendly enough place that was easy, and you were acquiring lots of men to date. So you're not in like bumfuck Georgia, right? But then on the other hand, it's like, but then all the women are judgy about it. So there's a layer of conservatism, and it's like, oh, San Antonio, Texas, that's actually the perfect.
That actually does make a lot of sense, yeah. Huh. There we go.
So that's a bummer. So you got to find the women who are not going to care, and you're going to find the women who are not going to care. It's going to be bisexual women for the most part. It's going to be women who are in some level in an alternative community. I think the kink community and the polyamorous community would be super non-judgmental.
Yeah.
I think if you're going after the balayage, if you're going after the AKIO alums of the world, you're going to find some bitches who don't want to be with a dude who has a long history of fucking men. Absolutely. That's the way of the world. The same way that I would not try to date a football player, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's just, I think everybody should know what their demographic is, their key demographic is. But you got to go for the alternative girls. And especially bisexual women, I think a lot of times feel safer around a dude who is bisexual and who has been with men, because they're just like, oh, he gets it. He's not homophobic. He's at least in touch with himself enough to have like asked himself on some base level, do I want to suck a dick? And like know the answer to that, because so many men out there just like truly haven't introspected to that level.
See, those girls that are like turned off by it, I'm like, you've probably been with bi men, right? Like there are so many guys that, or they experience it or experimented with their friends growing up. Like odds are you've already been with it. So there's some internalized homophobia there, but you're right. The alternative girlies would be the ones to go for that.
Yeah. And then what are your personal feelings on dating men who have dabbled in the sex industry? Again, positive, but only because I'm in an alternative community where we're not judgy about sex. And that just means to like, oh, okay, like if you're making money off of sex, you're probably like fairly good at it.
So my first thought is that odds are you're good at it, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, I guess like, you know, if I feel like maybe like the filming with like your face, that can be tough. Like if you have like a job or something like that and you don't want that, like I can see that maybe being a thing.
Yeah, if you don't have a job, I think women don't want to fuck you because you don't have a job.
Yeah, no, I meant with like the men in the sex industry, like with like you showing your face and that kind of thing. If you have like a really like, if you have a job that like requires like a certain level of ambiguity,
Yeah.
and then your like partner's like a super famous like sex worker, I think that could make life difficult. But like they'd be so good at sex. They'd be so good at it.
Yeah.
And that would be fun. I don't know. I've never thought about dating a sex worker. Or well, like I mean, I've never thought about I have friends who are sex workers. I've just never once like really I don't really give it too much of a thought.
Yeah.
I mean because I want to be like a famous comic one day, so like I know that would be like a point of discussion, but I would be prepared.
I just feel like sex work, especially dabbling in sex work, is so common and blasé.
It really is common. Like it's really not that deep.
Especially like post-pandemic with the like a lot of people, we went the route of, instead of protecting people's privacy, we went the opposite route of like, well, now it's just so commonplace that it's hard to like care. If like some girl has an OnlyFans, it's like, yeah, like such a huge portion of the population.
Get your bag, yeah.
Yeah. I all of a sudden I had a thought where it's like, if you're finding that, because I am surprised that you find women are somewhat turned off by the history, and I am curious how the history is being presented to them, because all of a sudden I immediately thought of like, if this is something that's coming up on a first date, I think any man who brought up his sexual history in any respect on a first date, that would be a turnoff to me, because it's like, does he not like understand what the vibe of dating is? Does he not like understand how conversations, because that's Dan Savage always says this, like it sounds like you have good judgment, and good judgment is or not having good judgment is a turnoff. If you don't seem like with it, and if you don't get like etiquette and social norms, that can be a real turnoff for women, because we are concerned with, I mean, okay, not to get so like biological essentialist or anything, but like evolutionary, a lot of women get turned on a little bit more by like status and community standing. Because historically that's like so important for us when we're dating. And so, yeah, my thought is, are you kind of like really breaking social norms in the way that you bring it up?
Yeah. My other thought was, if you're telling people right away, what happens if they're like, oh, he hasn't had sex with a woman in 20 years? Like, oh, like what happens if it's been 2 decades of just like only used to like the one thing, and you haven't had anything else? I'd be like, that I don't want to, like, no.
Yeah, if
I don't want to reteach you, sir.
If you're ducking down to go down on a woman and you're like, by the way, I've only been with men in a while. Yeah. That would be a turnoff. And like that, another thought that I have is like, this sounds so bad, but like, if he has been fucking exclusively men for a while, I'm curious how he sort of like dresses and acts, because a lot of times men who fuck men dress and act in a way that is meant to appeal to the men that they want to fuck, and those men have like really different taste from like the women who might be attracted to them.
Or if he's a girl's gay, or a girl's bi, my bad. If he's a girl's bi, then lots of girls aren't attracted to me because I like want to be girls' friends.
Yeah.
Like even when I was like younger, I'd be like, why don't girls like me? They just want to be my friend. Well, no, duh, because I really want girls to be my friend.
I'm not telling you to like completely change your appearance, vibe, grooming to appeal to women. I'm saying like, don't expect, like I can't show up. I dress like a lesbian so much of the time. I can't expect to be like the average generic Joe's cup of tea. I can't expect to be like a 10 to a frat guy, because that's not, I remember like having this like light bulb moment where I was like making some sort of joke about how I'd do anything for like men to like me, and this guy who is a comic and he doesn't live here anymore, he's like, yeah, anything except for like wear a shirt that fits, or like or like do your fucking hair. And I was like, you're so right.
Yeah, like, you're right. Like it's a type thing for sure.
Yeah, I do need to just like be okay with being a niche product.
And if this person is like super, super flamboyant, plenty of girls are attracted to flamboyant boys. How do you think like
Yeah.
Mormonism's a thing? Like all those boys are gay and those girls like them.
Well, don't get with a Mormon girl. She's not going to love hearing about you sucking dick. But like,
That's true, yeah.
if you go to queer spaces, if you go to explicitly queer spaces, kink spaces, poly spaces, all the girls are going to be like little weirdo freaks and just like find that. I think if you're on your average dating app and you're finding like Christian girl Autumn and going on a date with her and you show up with like 3 buttons open and a 70s style lapel, she's going to be like, am I on a date with a gay guy right now? And then you're going to be like, oh yeah, I've been with exclusively men for the past 10 years. And she's going to be like, I'm on a date with a gay guy right now.
Yeah.
And you can't at a certain degree like fault her for that level of judginess. Like there is a layer of homophobia there. It's not a particularly harmful layer of homophobia. You guys just weren't meant to be together.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, does she need to unlearn her homophobia? Yeah, but like this isn't going to be how she's going to do it.
And she's not hate criming.
No.
She's not out here saying slurs. So like let her be mildly homophobic because truthfully she needs it. Like those Mormon girls are grasping on to one last thread of homophobia. We've taken them all away. You know.
The last one will come soon.
Especially because it's biphobia primarily, and I'm bisexual, so I feel like I can say, don't let it get you down. Just find the weirdos amongst us.
You'll find them.
The bisexual girls will want you. You are a bisexual girl's dream man at the end for many of them.
High key though, yeah.
But do think about if you do specifically want to date women after dating strictly men, and you're okay with maybe like changing up the grooming, changing up the vibe, just like actively think about what women find attractive. And that might, you know, be a Jacob Elordi style bi for sure.
For like a fun bi.
I mean, he's not even bisexual, but god damn the eyebrow piercing, you know?
Oh my gosh. I'm not even, like, he's cute. Like, obviously, like, I have eyes, but he's not even like my type, really. And he's so hot.
I was having that conversation. I was like, he's not, because I don't like pretty boys, you know, like that. And then I like heard myself and I was like, oh yeah, like if Jacob Elordi fucking walked up to me in a bar, I'd be like, excuse me, you're not really my type.
Like, I'm gonna say yes, but like, you're just not my first.
I'm gonna drop to my knees, obviously. Just kidding. I have a boyfriend. I would never, but metaphorically.
Yeah, metaphorically. I mean, I would just drop to my knees. I'm fine. Yeah.
No. Okay. Yeah. Find the weird girls. Thank you so much for your question. Question number 2. I'm so bad at hitting on men. How can I get better at it? I freeze up and say weird shit when I'm trying to flirt. Dating apps are not it, and I'm trying to put myself out there more in person. Signed, lame with no game.
Well, first of all, stop saying you're lame with no game. You won't get better if you say you're bad at it.
Fair. I think it's okay to be vulnerable in an anonymous situation, though.
How dare this anonymous person be vulnerable? No, just kidding. No, I also struggle with my game when it comes to men in person. Online, though, I'm so good at it. I can fire up a storm.
I kind of accepted early on that there is so I'm a pattern recognition girl, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, let me watch what the girls who get laid are doing. And there are certain behaviors that are going to be appealing to the vast, broad swaths of men generically, right? And that is sort of like being giggly, being touchy, being bubbly, being smiley, and being very kind. None of those things come natural to me. None of those things come natural to me when I'm talking to men specifically. So I kind of realized either I have to like learn those skills or I just have to be okay with like fucking men in other ways. you know, like on dating apps or whatever. So like, yeah, decide whether or not you're down to like learn those skills. For me, if I was trying to exhibit any of those behaviors, it would be so insanely obvious and uncomfortable. It would be like this big neon light. It's like, oh my God, like Hannah's fucking flirting with someone. What an insane, unbearable thing to witness, you know?
Yeah.
Like it would just be really fucking weird. So I just don't. I just opt out, and I always send signals online in some capacity. If I'm dating people in like my network or whatever.
Yeah.
So if you are saying that it's going to be important for you to hit on men in person in like a party or a bar scenario, you have to be a smiley person. I think you really do. You can be an insanely confident girl and you can walk up and say something mean to a guy. And if you are like extremely hot, that definitely might work for you. I know girls who that works for.
Me too, yeah.
But if you're like a regular looking gal, like the rest of us, I would say that generally you're going to want to be smiley, giggly, and touchy.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and then also I feel like a good compliment, or at least whenever, because I'll compliment people's eyes. I love complimenting people's eyes. So I'll compliment men's eyes. They're always tickled pink by it. They're like, oh my gosh. So if you could just sneak that in there, oh, you have really pretty eyes during a normal conversation, they might, I don't know.
Men get so blushy when you compliment
them. They do, and it's like, girl, it's not that hard. Like, you can have, men have pretty eyes. It's fine. Like, get over yourself.
Even if this is actually, men will drop fucking dead if they say something, anything, any sort of like opinion or cultural criticism or just anything. And if you're like, that's so insightful.
Yeah.
They fucking...
They really do.
Yeah, because people don't say nice things to men. We've really normalized a brand of humor amongst women that's really abrasive toward men. And like, obviously, I'm down for that. I've profited off of it to my own respect. Yeah. But it's also like way more common than I think we ever intended it to be when we were making our little TikToks, and it's bled into in person. I think you can really set yourself apart by just like being a little nicer than the average gal,
or just be a fucking bitch. Because like I said, I have friends. If you can play the insult route, they'd be crazy.
Sure. I mean, you got to be that species, though.
Yeah, I was about to say,
you will find out real quick that you are a 7 and not an 8. If you try that tactic and it backfires, that will be information that you know about yourself personally. Okay.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with being a 7, and it won't limit you long term. That's still literally above average.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But just be aware of that.
Yeah, my friend who does it, she's like banging hot. Yeah. So that makes sense. I just don't get it, because I'm like, compliment me. I'm a simp for a good compliment. If a guy compliments me, I'm okay.
And then the problem is that if you're trying to exhibit those behaviors like sweetness and niceness and bubbliness toward men, it can be really obvious that you're hitting on a dude. So then you have to learn how to just like be sweet and nice and bubbly toward everybody generically, so that it's not super obvious when you're hitting on someone, which is not a bad skill to learn. I mean, depending on how much work it takes, right? Like I've said in every fucking episode, if you are trying to exhibit a social skill that is extremely unnatural to you, then you are just signing up for a life full of effort in the situations that are supposed to be relaxing to you, right?
Yeah.
Like going out and having fun with friends should, at a certain level, be fun and easy. So always remember that it's okay to put in a little bit of work to be a type of person that you want to be. But if you're trying to fundamentally change your vibe and just like muscle yourself into a different person, that's not a fun note to start a relationship on.
That's very true. Yeah. Like if you know your strengths. It's like good to play into that. So if you have a really good strength, like I don't know these person's strengths, but see what those strengths are, and see, like odds are you can find a way to flirt with a man in that way if that's what you're wanting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be the person who, when you meet new people, you follow them on Instagram. Just be the person, because if you're okay with things having, you don't want dating apps to be a part of your dating life, but you might be okay with the internet being a part of your dating life in general.
Yeah.
I would say that's the easiest for us gals who aren't great at like hitting on men and like the in-person charisma. Just like be the person who follows everyone new that you meet. And that way you can open up room for, because that's how men are most comfortable flirting with women.
Yeah.
I think men are really, by and large, the majority of them who aren't particularly confident, but still might really like you, they're not going to be super comfortable hitting on you in person because they're pretty scared to cross a line.
Yeah.
And so, but men are even those men I've found who aren't super comfortable in person are pretty comfortable shooting their shot on the internet. There's a various cybernetic ways to shoot your shot in a very low risk capacity, and men are really good at that.
Yeah, I've had guys who I guess have liked me I didn't know in person, and then when we saw each other online, they're like, "Hey."
Yeah.
It's like, "Oh, you liked me, huh?" Maybe somebody likes you and you're already lame, or what's their username again?
Lame with no game.
Lame with no game. You might have a man who really, really likes you, and the second you follow him on Instagram, he might slide into those DMs because he's just waiting for the chance. You'd be surprised how many people just like you in your day-to-day. if you're queer, they might not tell you, because I didn't know one of them was gay.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, look at you.
The majority of people, you don't even have to ask for their Insta at the bar. The majority of people have unique enough names that you can type them in and you can find them afterwards because you have like one mutual in common.
If you're in a small city, odds are finding their name will be very easy.
100%. And then also I would say that like if your main social outlet where you would be hitting on dudes is like bars and parties, which is like a certain era of your life that's like normal, that's gonna be harder to like really find dates than if you are trying to hit on men through like hobbies and such.
Yeah.
So go for the hobbies.
I agree with that.
Okay, great. Next question. How to find time and motivation for social interactions or hobbies when you're crushed underneath the weight of your work and school responsibilities? Ever since I started working, I rarely have time to hang out with the people I care about. And sure, we text sometimes and all, but it's still a big jump from being able to see them at least once a week. As for my hobbies, I can't really find the energy for them. I'm always tired, but I think my anemia might be to blame. I'm actually waiting to get my blood work done as I write this. But even prior to that, my passion for making art could be compared to a flame of a candle, as over time it seemed to die out more and more. Signed, Dog Scuffle.
Dog Scuffle. That's like so vulnerable. That's like such a bummer. The long distance friend thing can be really, really tough. It's definitely like a transition.
Part of what you write about is the tragedy of adulthood.
Yeah.
And part of what you write about is a person who is overworked, chronically ill, and your body is shutting down. So, like, there's some signs of burnout, and then there's some signs of things that you probably do just like learn to get over, that I have learned to get over with adulthood. And parsing out which is tough because I don't know you and the details of your illness. I would say that overall, it sounds like you need to take care of your body first, and you need to view a lot of these problems as temporary and more related to your body than you think they are.
Yeah.
Because, right now, all of these problems are mixed up together in a big cauldron, and they're boiling, and they're creating a sum that is greater than a whole that is greater than the sum of its parts, right? But if you prioritize taking care of your body and finding a work situation that is not so taxing, you should have energy when you come home from work, especially if work is not a huge source of joy and pleasure. Then it's even more important that you find a job. And that's tough because the economy is bad right now. The job market's bad right now. But even a bad economy and job market is on a certain level temporary. Like, yes, everything is collapsing. Late stage capitalism is a nightmare, and some of it's not getting better, but a lot of it really does, especially if you're in your early 20s or if you haven't really found a footing with your career. A lot of times that does just happen, and it feels like it never will. And I just kind of like stumbled into what ended up being a career for me. And once I got a livable wage and manageable work hours and a manageable work-life balance, a lot of other things just fell into place for me in a way I didn't expect it. Comedy fell into place, and friendships fell into place, and relationships fell into place. And so don't underestimate how much all these things are related.
That's true. And anemia and work burnout are a killer combo to completely destroy your energy. I mean, I know people who have anemia who it's like they go up a flight of stairs, and if they like, if before they, kind of what this person mentioned, before they got their blood work done, and they would be like tired going up the top of the stairs, like, yeah, that makes it impossible to have hobbies. But yeah, once you can find the solutions to those, that's like very much the key. And finding new ways to communicate with your friends can also be really, really fun. Like because I used to the college community of you could see your friends whenever you want is like so amazing. But I've learned that like I have some friends that like we'll send each other like audio, like voice memos, just like about our day and stuff. And it totally works to like catch up with them and still like feel like I'm in the zone, but it's not nearly as much like work is like planning something or something like you can like I'll do it like on my way back from work. I'm like, work sucked and here's why, but I know why their work day sucked, and we were able just to like talk about it, and I felt like I'm still close to that friend, and it's a lot less effort. It's still some effort, but it's a lot less. It's just going on your phone and speaking.
Yeah, I would say that like it's so tough because like I don't think you can force yourself into hobbies and motivate yourself into hobbies. I think that there are a couple things that are so good for you that you just really have to fucking force yourself to do them, and then it's much better. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, that was worth it. And the only things that fall into those categories for me are moving my body, eating right, and seeing my friends at like a baseline level. So I would say that you are ill, treat yourself. This is a season of fucking illness. You are operating at survival capacity. You have to force yourself to eat right, to work out, and to see your two closest friends once a week each. You have to do that. Everything else, put a pause on it. This is not, I would say that when you're surviving is not the time that you can be pouring energy into your art and your hobbies. They can wait. And I think that you will feel when your body stops revolting on you, because I don't know where your anemia is coming from, if you have other deeper like disease issues, or if maybe it's tied to work burnout and stress and stuff like that. There's a lot of unanswered questions here, but take care of your body first. And the trouble is, a lot of times when you're in that like season of illness, I've been through, when I was experiencing burnout, I would hang out with people and it never felt fun the way that friendships should feel fun.
Yeah.
It felt like work and like a lot of effort. And looking back on it, it's because I was burnt out. I was so burnt out, and I just like, I needed those connections to survive at all and to not be totally isolated, but they weren't traditional friendships at that time.
Okay.
And when I reprioritized and I said the number one most important thing is figuring out a work situation where my body's not like revolting, that's when everything got better.
Yeah, especially with something like anemia, because even if it is like a chronic thing or something like that, at least like once you know your blood work is done and you can talk to your doctor, like at least finding like a step for that can like help you clear your mind so that you can focus on the new job. But yeah, if those things just take up so much time, you can't escape yourself. So if you're always tired, you like can't escape that. So you have to be able to find the things that take care of the tiredness before you can take care of the things that you have a lot more control over.
Anemia is one of those things that is often a part of like a bigger, like if you have a lot of women in your life, one thing that you will notice over time is that like women will have like absolutely horrific 7-year-long experiences in healthcare where they're not taken seriously and they have chronic fatigue, and and it's just, anemia is always combined with some sort of hormone issue, which is always combined, and the doctors never work hard to get to the root of it. I remember my mom had like really bad health issues, and it was like 7 different things that were all related, and she was like couldn't live a normal life at that time. I really urge for you, you're probably being gaslit by a lot of people in your life, and specifically the healthcare system. I really urge you to ask your doctors for a lot of fucking documentation if they ever just give up on diagnosing you. Because it is not normal to feel this way, and it's not acceptable to feel this way, even if it is kind of maybe more normal than it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It is absolutely not acceptable. It has to be treated. They have to be trying new things to treat you. And that's the number one priority. And if you don't have good insurance, get a different job and get on Medicaid, dude. Maybe being poorer is what you need. I mean, depending on what your student loan situation is, like at least with Medicaid, they can't like, you can't fall through the cracks the way that you can if you're sort of like middle class with not good insurance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very true.
But not to be, because Maslow's hierarchy of needs is like so fake and dumb. But it is sometimes valuable to remember that like it's hard to work on higher level things like artistic fulfillment and hobbies and stuff if your body's not working.
Yeah, it is really hard. And your art will probably come really naturally once you're able to begin like helping your body, because then your art will help you process what you just went through. Because like being fatigued all the time and having that ruin your life, that's like it's a time of illness. That's like a bad time in your life. You'll be able to like process this as you come out of it, and the art will probably come way more naturally to you, and the motivation
100%.
will be there. Yeah, that's how art works.
And if the blood work doesn't show anything, get a psychiatrist, dude. Because I think that fatigue and despondency and depression are those symptoms that are most likely to be like written off, because we can tell ourselves stories that like, I'm just lazy and unmotivated. And like, that's not true. I have gone through periods where I was lazy and unmotivated, and it's because I was suffering.
Yeah.
And I wake up every day with energy and motivation right now because I'm not suffering anymore. And that it was never laziness. So yeah, fight for the and just like know that you're right about your experience, no matter what your parents might say because they're from a different generation, or what your doctors might say because doctors are literally evil. Okay, getting too radical. Next question. Okay, this is the last question for this episode. I am new to comedy. I've only done 2 open mics at queer bars and they went super well. I'm afraid to take my comedy to a straighter, whiter environment. I live in Florida for context, and comedy out here gets real conservative real fast. I guess I want advice on how to expand on comedy and grow while also ultimately keeping myself safe. I want to do comedy for an audience that gets me, but in a place with 3 gay bars and only a few gay comedy nights, I don't get to practice and perform often. Do I take the risk and see if conservative Floridians will even smile at my set? Do I stay safe? For context, I'm a fat, half black, half Latina lesbian. So it's an interesting time. Signed, Funny Under Fascism.
Funny Under Fascism. Good for you. You're a brave individual, Funny Under Fascism. That's
absolutely.
That is so brave to be willing to like be authentically yourself and talk about it. And like, comedy is one of the hardest things you'll ever do. And the fact that you're still trying in such a unique time and place, like that's brave.
You are going to have to develop an extremely good gut sense of safety and not allow yourself to be gaslit by mainstream culture that like, oh no, I'm just being a pussy. No. You have to develop a really good gut sense. Go everywhere. Show up to every open mic, because you will be shocked at the randomly fun and inclusive spaces that you will find in dive bar comedy. Mm-hmm. If you show up and no one, if you show up and your gut feeling says fuck this, get out of there.
Yeah.
You came, you saw, you left. If you find even one extra place in your town to get up and expand your comedy, great job. Phase 1 complete. Next, you move to every town within 2 hours of you. Comedy is a lot of driving. People drive a lot. You listen to comedy that's just like part of the thing. It's not unreasonable. Drive to other cities. Every place you show up, gut feeling, bad, you leave. Gut feeling, I'll try this out. I think if you see, I know that in Florida there aren't a lot of women, but generally, like if you were in Denver, if any women are there, it's kind of like a good test for like there's something in environment but biology that like if there's like a certain bug there, it means the place is like, say, you know, it's like
I think I know what you're talking about.
But I think like women are kind of the litmus test for a space being safe for, like, if you see female comics there and they prefer to go to that place, I would generally say, I won't guarantee that you'll be safe, but I would generally say like that's probably a better place to do comedy. If you show up and you're the only woman there, I would say be concerned for sure. But I know that in Florida there are so few women that could be a little different. Expand your comedy online. Find queer comedy groups. Mm-hmm. Classes are a great way to get writing and get to know other people who are also new. Yes, classes can be done on a certain level, and a lot of us feel resistant to classes. Think of a class as a networking opportunity and an accountability group, and you'll be more likely to get a lot out of it than if you think of it as like, I am going to be taught how to do comedy.
And there are definitely online queer writing groups too, where it's 100%. Like maybe not even like the class, because I also recommend, I'm a forever student, so I love a good class, and I got into comedy because of a class, and I'm super grateful, and it was a great networking opportunity. I'm so grateful I've done it. And I think there's great educational value with that kind of stuff. But there are queer writing groups. I know that there are some online. There are like stand-up comedy things that you can join online, and they talk about stuff kind of countrywide. So someone might talk about something from Florida and you didn't even know it was there or something like that. Like, I definitely think take advantage of like the fact that you're a comedian online right now. Sure, it sucks because being a comic online isn't it's oversaturated market, but it's also a great community builder built into it. It's awesome.
100%. So that's all phase 1. Phase 2, you start an open mic in your town at one of the other gay bars, right? There's already an open mic at one of the gay bars, or 2 open mics at queer bars. Start one at the 3rd queer bar, and just go up to them, ask that. But by a few months into comedy, you'll figure out how you start an open mic. Then the people who show up to that open mic will more likely be the safe people, the people who are interested in being queer spaces, and you'll get a few allies, and just show up to the open mics with them. And when they're going to be there, it's pretty understood if you're in any marginalized community within comedy. We make fast friends, and like I always tell new women in comedy who like message me about mics, if you're the only woman there, leave. If you show up and there's a couple women there, you can go up to their table and be like, hi, I'm super new to comedy. Can I sit with you guys? And it's not weird the way that it would maybe be weird at like a Red Robin, right? Because like it's just understood that comedy has like first day of school vibes. It would not be weird if someone came up and said that to me at an open mic.
Not weird.
All.
That's happened to both of us. I went up to you at my very first open mic and was like, this is my first open mic.
Oh yeah, was I nice?
You were really nice. You and I had already worked together. You were a sub for like Christy's class.
Yes.
So that kind of thing. So we already kind of had familiarity there, but
even if you straight up don't know them though.
No, literally, people have done that to me a million times. Go up to the part of the host's job is to literally be nice to people, to like literally. So I've had plenty of people come up to me and they're like, this is my first time, I'm alone, I didn't know what to do. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're gonna crush it, great, it's gonna be great. And you can literally see like some of the nerves literally leave their body as they like take a breath out. Like, oh my gosh, that is like, yeah, Florida is a unique space, but if you can find a place to do your own comedy, like create a mic or do a show or something, that guarantees your own time.
So now you have 3 venues that are guaranteed safe. Hopefully there's one more venue that you've found in a surrounding town or in your town that is safe, even though it's a straight space. And you've found an online community of queer comics. Start following queer comics online that have not famous queer comics, right? Because it's going to be hard for them to develop a friendship with you. They've already been through and they're miles down the road. Start trying to find other queer comics who are new, connecting with people online, commenting on every funny queer comics videos that you see, and trying to find people who are newer and newer to comedy until you have a group online. Start putting your own stuff online and connecting with them that way. And yeah, maybe if you're financially able and you can travel to other cities, I would definitely take trips, go watch shows.
Oh yeah.
Depending on where you are in comedy, you can ask to be on those shows. You might have a great tape. You might be too new for that. And you just need to go and say, I really loved this. I'm just a beginner comic, but like I'm in Florida, and get to know them that way. And if you have the financial means, start visiting other cities that are more queer friendly, like New York and LA, as soon as you can. And if your comedy grows enough, you might find you want to move to one of those places.
Yeah, definitely take advantage of like being able to grow that kind of stuff. Hell, come to Denver. Yeah. We'll welcome you at any mic. We've got
any mic.
Well, some
like
they're in mics. You find one of us on Instagram. We'll hit you. Because I was like, you're at all the mics I go to, but I don't go to all mics.
Yeah, exactly. You would be surprised how many mics there are that I wouldn't even consider going to. Yeah. You look at the poster and you're like, ugh.
I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. So ask, but like definitely like see you. Yeah, and your phone will listen to you talk about queer comedy. So you're gonna see people's reels or people's TikToks, and like seriously, like comics are narcissists. They love to get new followers, so they'll love that they'll love the attention, and then you'll get the attention, and then bam, a friendship's made.
And do improv. Improv is really cool. The comedy might not be your jam, but you will meet a lot of people in the comedy world, and improv is a little more queer friendly on average than a little.
It's also more
It's
also just more
yeah.
Improv is so community based, and stand up, as much as you make your friends, it's a solo sport. You're not on stage with other people.
100%.
So it's like it's great to make friends and you'll go to mics with them, but like if they don't go to the mic that night, well, do you still want to go? So like improv is a great and your comedy will get better because improv is the foundation of all comedy.
I truly believe it's what sets me apart. I'm proud of you. I'm excited that you're starting out a fun new thing.
You're a bad bitch. You are literally being yourself. Congratulations.
If you are feeling like maybe you're in the wrong place, but like, oh, maybe I'm just being a pussy and maybe I'm just scared and I'm not being brave. No, go with that gut sense so that gut sense goes stronger. The more that you show your body, you will trust it and you will let it take the driver's seat. Calvin, where can people find you and what do you want to promote?
You can find me on Instagram at Calvin Reid, REID_. Or type in Calvin R. I'd like to think it comes up pretty quickly after that. But and then you can see me. I'm hosting for Chloe Radcliffe at the Comedy Fort next weekend.
Slay.
It's gonna be fun.
I love her.
She's so funny. I can't wait to just like pick her brain. She worked with Steven Soderbergh and I love Erin Brockovich. Anyways, so I'm doing that. I'm hosting the Rise open mic. So if you're new to comedy, you've never tried it.
These are all Colorado days.
Yes, these are all in Denver, or except for Fort Collins. That's in the Comedy Fort in Fort Collins. Denver Rise Comedy. I'm hosting the mic. If you've never done comedy, come. It's a good time. And do I have another show after that? I think so. We'll find out real quick.
And in the meantime, I am at Hannah Jones Cool on everything. Submit a question to this podcast. We love questions. Subscribe to the Patreon, patreon.com/Hannah Jones Cool. Thank you so much for listening.